coming to you live from Tennessee, from the east to the west. We are talking Cowboys everything. And you just entered
the Cowboy Zone.
Welcome back to the pregame episode of the Cowboy Zone. I'm your host, Marcus Jones, the Bluff City Cowboy, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. Thank you all for watching, and we're going to try to get through this show as quickly as possible. I appreciate everybody who's tuning in. Had a lot of technical difficulties at the house with the internet this week, so I was unable to do this past Wednesday's show with Cowboys versus Niners. So I'm going to try to squeeze in a little bit of the keynotes that I want to touch base on, and then we'll get into some of our pregame show activities. So for you guys who are joining right now, I wasn't able to share. So if you could, please share this podcast to your favorite Facebook group, and also make sure you hit the bell and also subscribe to Bluff City Cowboys on YouTube. So I'll wait a few minutes, let a couple more people join us. I see the views are starting to go up. For everybody who's watching, make sure you get in the comments. Let me know that you're there. And this is an interactive show, so we always like to have fan engagement. So you can also give us your questions and give us your comments as we move forward. So, kick things off. We're going to go straight into a segment that we normally do on Wednesday nights, but we're going to hit a couple of them today, and that is some of the key matchups to look forward to in this week's game against the San Francisco 49ers.
Key matchups.
All right. I didn't know any plainer way to put this one. It's pretty much Christian McCaffrey should have eyes on him at all times. He's one of the hottest running backs in the NFL right now. He is on a complete tear with, I believe, 13 straight touchdowns. And he's just demolishing teams on his own in the running game as well as the receiving game. So we have to make a concerted effort to make sure that we try to neutralize Christian McCaffrey. As you guys remember who follow the Cowboy Zone, I talked about this during the Arizona Cardinals game, how our biggest weakness is running backs who can run off tackle because our linebackers are not athletic enough to meet them in the hole, and they get clear pathways to the second and third levels. Same thing this week. Christian McCaffrey is going to be even more dangerous on those off-tackle runs, and the Niners run off-tackle more than pretty much any team in the NFL to set up their play actions to give Brock Purdy a lot of easy reads. So if we can go into this game, make an effort to slow down Christian McCaffrey, take away the ability for Purdy to make those bootleg passes and cut off half the field, it's going to make us a lot more successful in slowing down this offense. So saying that leads into my second key matchup this week. And I want to give a caveat before I go into my other key matchups. So we all know all the big names. Of course, I have to cover Christian McCaffrey because he's just unbelievable. But we know all the big names, the Micahs, the Trent Williams, things of that nature. Today, I wanted to cover some of those key matchups that the average fan wouldn't think about, and some of those chess matches kind of behind the scenes that I think we're going to see that are going to be influential in the outcome of this game. So I only have 4 key matchups today. Of course, I could use the Trent Williams, the Micah Parsons, things of that nature. But I want to talk about some of the other major pieces we have on this offense who also are going to be major contributors in this week's game. So let's get back into it. The next key matchup I want to talk about, and this one is Brandon Cooks. As you guys know, Brandon Cooks has been kind of underwhelming so far this season. Hasn't had a chance to really break away, use that speed. I think this week will probably be the best opportunity to see him make plays. Um, for you guys to follow the show, we pretty much do a breakdown on all the secondaries. This team does more cover 3 and cover 1 than any other team we faced so far this year. So basically what that means is in a cover 3 scheme, you're going to have your corners on the outside who bail, and they're responsible for a third of the field. And then that free safety is responsible for the middle of the field. And the strong safety kind of plays a hybrid linebacker nickelback role close to the line of scrimmage within 10 yards, covering curl flats, helping out on drags, etc. They also run a lot of cover 1, which basically means the cornerbacks are essentially on the island by themselves with the free safety just playing deep, making sure nothing gets over top. And again, a strong safety has the same role as before. What that creates as an advantage for this matchup is Brandon Cooks and his vertical threat. We haven't had a chance to see it a lot because some of these other teams play a lot of zone, or they do a lot of shading to the opposite sides and let their best corners kind of play one-on-one with Gallup or Cook or Lamb. This week, the Niners, and I have two of their corners right here. The Niners, in my opinion, have a weak secondary. And they rely heavily on their 3 and 4 to kind of help cover the slack. And they've been underperforming. As you can see on the screen, we have Ambry Thomas, talented player out of Michigan. And we also have Isaiah Oliver, a guy that was a former Atlanta Falcon drafted from the University of Colorado. So these are your backup guys. And Isaiah Oliver was supposed to be your slot. He's been having a bad year so far. So what they've been doing on tape is when a team goes to 3 wide, they either take Oliver off the field and bring Ambry Thomas in and put him on the outside, and then they've used their outside corner, Diamador Lanier, and put him on the slot. So how that is beneficial for Cooks is both of these guys are below average corners right now, in my opinion. They're going to play a heavy bracket defense with CeeDee Lamb. So essentially, what we're going to see this game, we're going to see the nickel corner following Lamb, and then you're going to see Hufanga, the strong safety, who I said before, plays all over the field, or you're going to see one of their very talented linebackers. They're going to bracket CeeDee Lamb on the inside. So the corner's going to probably play outside leverage. That safety or that linebacker is going to play inside leverage, and they're going to minimize CeeDee Lamb's opportunity in the slot. What that does is that opens up one-on-one opportunities on the outside. Now, Shavarius Ward, their outside corner, he's an above-average corner in my opinion. And more than likely, just because of the size matchup, they're going to face him up against Michael Gallup. So that means Brandon Cooks is going to get the team's number 4 cornerback on the outside in possibly a cover 3 defense or a cover 1 defense. So he's going to have a lot of one-on-one opportunities to take advantage of his speed and quickness. In my opinion, more than he's had in weeks past. So be mindful of that Brandon Cooks matchup on the outside. I got 2 more key matchups I want to talk about. Then we'll move forward in the show. Next key matchup I want to talk about is the right side of that offensive line for the San Francisco 49ers. Watching on tape, their right tackle gives me rookie year Terrence Steele vibes. He's not having a good season so far, especially in pass sets. So this gives a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence probably one of the better opportunities this year to make impact outside of the Giants games when he normally explodes. So I'm expecting between him and Dante Fowler to have a lot of favorable matchups on that side, as well as possibly throwing Micah Parsons over there as well on obvious passing downs to take advantage of that major mismatch. The other guy you see on the screen right here is Spencer Harford, their right guard. Spencer Buford, I'm sorry. Spencer Buford is their right guard. Watching on tape, he looks very bad. And if you go to PFF, he has one of the lowest passing grades for any guard in the NFL. I think right now his pass blocking grade is about a 14. That's pathetic. And his biggest struggles are normally against speedy, quick twitch 3 techniques. And there's very few who are as good as Osa on the inside. I see we got my classmate Raphael Govan joining us. Govan, thank you for tuning in. Um, we're right at 11:30, so we're making good time right now. Going through some of the key matchups in this week's game. Like I just said, Colton McKivitz, the right tackle, is having a bad year. The guard next to him, Spencer Buford, is probably having a worse year. So our left side of our defensive line should have a lot of opportunities to take advantage of that. In my opinion, I expect to see this team run a lot at that side to kind of neutralize that pass rush. So hopefully the Niners start to give some tails to show that they're running on the right side and help give our defensive linebackers some keys to kind of help stretch to the edge a little bit quicker. So I'm watching this lineup very closely to make sure that our defensive linemen can take advantage of that. So now I got one more key matchup I got to talk about, and it's another one of those not the major guys you normally think about. That one is Brandon Ayuk versus Stephon Gilmore. So the reason I put this one up is because Debo is more of a gadget guy. He's going to play inside. He's going to play outside. He's going to play in the backfield. I don't think this team is going to want to allow Debo to get lined up with Jordan Lewis. So I feel like we're going to see a lot of Bland traveling inside, outside in this week's game to follow Debo Samuel. What I think that does is, since Brandon Ayuk is more of a traditional boundary receiver, we're going to see Stephon Gilmore kind of follow him a little bit more because Bland is going to have his hands full with Debo. And Brandon Ayuk is a great 50-50 ball guy. Stephon Gilmore, former Defensive Player of the Year, little up in age, but still has that ability if he can stay close to a receiver. I think this is going to be a great matchup to watch because Brandon Ayuk has become this team's number one receiver outside of how much the media talks about and loves Debo. Debo's a great player, but in terms of a true receiver, I think Brandon Ayuk is a better guy as a number one. So if you look for Brock Purdy to throw the ball, expect to see it a lot more at the running backs, which I talked about before with McCaffrey, and Brandon Ayuk. Going back to that last key matchup I just talked about, you're going to see a lot of help by George Kittle on that right side because that tackle and that guard are just so bad. I think that's going to limit the amount of routes that we see George Kittle run today. So that's going to help free up Jaron Kearse and Donovan Wilson a little bit more. So I'm expecting if the ball gets passed, it has to go to a guy like a Brandon Ayuk, or you're going to see some gadget plays with your McCaffreys and with your Debo Samuel. So that's pretty much all I got for your key matchups this week. Let's go ahead and move forward into some of our actual pregame segments. We don't have a lot on the injury report this week. It sounds like both teams are relatively healthy. On Thursday, it was reported that 52 of the 53 players on the Cowboys roster right now all practice. So we're looking to get a full slate of our offense and defense playing today. Same thing for the San Francisco 49ers. Looks like they're extremely healthy as well. So let's go ahead and move to another segment of the show. And for you guys that are watching, I would like to get you guys feedback on this. So let's go to some of our bold predictions for this week's matchup.
bold predictions.
All right, for you guys that are watching, bold predictions is a segment where I want you to give us your boldest prediction on a statistic that you think will happen in this week's game. I'll make a note of it, and if someone makes a bold prediction and it actually happens, the Cowboy Zone will be sending you a prize. And with that being said, I don't think he's here today, but congratulations to Elazar Mendoza with his bold prediction for last week, saying that one of our players would get 2 interceptions, and Deron Bland came through with him with not only 2 interceptions, but he returned 1 for a touchdown. So I'm going to reach out to Mendoza off air, and we're going to get him a prize from the Cowboy Zone. It's basically going to be a sign. It's similar to the signage I have right here. So Mendoza, you can choose between a Bluff City Cowboy sign, or you can get the Cowboy Zone sign, or I can get you one that says, "How about them Cowboys?" So Mendoza, it's your choice, whichever sign you want. So guys, let me know your bold predictions for this week's game. And while you guys come with your bold predictions, I'll give you my bold prediction for this week's game. I talked about Brandon Cooks and that key matchup, and I like that, Raphael. I'm going along those lines also. So I think Brandon Cooks has an opportunity to have his breakout game. My bold prediction this week: Brandon Cooks, 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. Brandon Cooks, 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. Raphael probably thinking along the same lines as I am. You got an outside receiver with some speed going against their small, limited corners. So he's gone Jalen Tolbert, 75 yards and a touchdown. I could definitely see that one happening also. Jalen Tolbert's been playing very well this year. And I think when he gets subbed in as that 4th receiver, or he substitutes a Gallup or a Cooks, he's going to have some opportunities to make some run after catch plays, because this is a very good defense, but their corners are not very good tacklers. All right. I see we got David Dermer joining us. As I always, appreciate you tuning in. David Dermer has Micah Parsons with 4 sacks. Now, that's a bold prediction. I would have gave it to you for 2, honestly, or even 3, but 4 is an extremely bold prediction. Like I talked about earlier in the show, I'll be 100%. He's not getting a sack on Trent Williams. Trent Williams is a generational player, probably one of the 10 best tackles of all time, still playing in his prime. He's essentially Tyron Smith without all the injuries. So it's going to be difficult for Micah to get some opportunities on that side. But shifting Micah on the inside against the guard, Spencer Buford, or putting him on that edge on the right side against Colton McKivitz, Micah Parsons definitely going to have some opportunities. And David Dermer, 2 to 3 wasn't bold enough. I like how you think. When you go bold, you go big. So Micah Parsons, 4 sacks is definitely a bold prediction for this week's game. I see we got a few other people watching. So if you're joining us right now, get in the comments. Let us know you're there. Also, give us your bold prediction for this week's game. Do a quick recap. I have 100 yards and a touchdown for Brandon Cooks. I got Raphael 75 yards and a touchdown for Jalen Tolbert, and then David Dermer coming in on top of all of us with 4 sacks for Micah Parsons. So we're at 11:36 right now. We still got about 10 more minutes to go. So let's go ahead and move on, and we'll go to some of our game predictions for this week. Once again, I want to get you guys involved. So let me know your game predictions for this week's matchup.
Game prediction.
All right. So this week's matchup, get in the comments again, guys. Let me know what your game predictions are for this week. I'll start it off while you guys think of your game predictions. In this game, personally, Let me backtrack for a second. The Niners have scored 30-plus points every game this year. And their defense is only allowing 15 points a game. Now, Dallas is averaging about 30 points also. They're averaging about 30, but they're not scoring 30 every week. And they're giving up about 12 points a game. So you got two great offenses going against two great defenses on both sides of the ball. Something that's normally unheard of for two teams to be dominant on offense and defense in terms of scoring. So it's going to be some give and take in there in terms of this matchup. To add on top of that, for you guys who follow the Cowboys closely, you know how bad our red zone offense has been for Dallas. Well, the San Francisco 49ers have a bottom 5 red zone defense. So once again, you got one team that's bad here on offense. You got another team that's bad on defense. So this is going to be one of those very perfect matchups for a get-right game. And I see I got my guy Shane Odom joining us for the game predictions. Thank you, Shane Odom, for tuning in. For you guys that are watching right now, make sure you hit that like button to get those analytics up for the show. I see we got a few likes right now. But if everybody watching could hit that like button, I greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button and hit that bell so you'll be noted for every future Cowboy Zone episode. So going back to this game, I don't think we're going to solve our red zone problems. I can see us getting in the red zone often. I can see us getting 2 touchdowns. One of them probably won't be red zone. One of them probably will. But I see us kicking 4 field goals, 3 to 4 field goals. So that would put us right at 26. I think this is going to be one of those possession games where both teams are about even in time of possession. Surprisingly, the Niners have been losing time of possession in a couple of games. So I can see them not having as many possessions as we think they will. I think they capitalize on touchdowns more than we do. But I see them 24-26 Dallas Cowboys. I see us 2 touchdowns, 4 field goals. I see them 3 touchdowns, 1 field goal in a semi-defensive matchup. So let me hit the comments really quick, see what you guys think about this week's matchup. I see we got David Dermer going 19-17 Cowboys. I could definitely see that. Looking at their score, I'm assuming 1 touchdown, 4 field goals, kind of along the lines of me with 4 field goals. You see the Niners taking advantage and scoring touchdowns, but not enough. Raphael saying the Niners defense will give up 400 yards total offense and 4 TDs. And that ties into his game prediction of 31-10 Cowboys and what would be considered a blowout victory. Shane Odom going along the lines of Raphael, giving the Niners a little bit more credit, but also giving the Cowboys 30-plus points. So he has 31-17 Dallas. And then Govan coming back and saying that I think McCarthy's been hiding plays for this game. I definitely agree. We haven't seen Mike McCarthy really open the playbook up yet. He hasn't had to, based off of the blowout victories he's had, as well as the what I would consider a blowout loss to the Cardinals. It's been pretty vanilla. We haven't seen the full complement of running and passing to see how he mixes it up in a game plan against a competitive team. And Shane Odom, you were almost right. You did have your goal prediction as a fake field goal attempt, but they gave you the fake extra point attempt instead. So you were close, Shane Odom. Great job on that one. So we're at 11:42, 25 minutes. Looks like we've gotten a couple of game predictions in. So we're going to get off the show. It looks like a little bit early, but before we go, we got to touch on that last segment of the game. And that is our fantasy favorites for week 5 in the NFL.
Fantasy favorites.
So, as you guys know, we like to do our fantasy favorites for the Cowboys game as well as any game outside of the Cowboys Niners. And for myself personally, when I do fantasy favorites, I don't like to go with the big name guys outside the game because those are the obvious ones. I like to go with the guys where if you're dealing with a bye week or you're dealing with an injury, this guy can step in and contribute for your team. So the first one I got to go to, considering injuries, I got to go to that Detroit Panthers game. So looking at the Detroit Lions, they came off a very dominant performance against the Green Bay Packers. They have an extra week to prepare, basically, or additional time to prepare. And they're playing what I would consider a weak team. The problem is they're dealing with two key injuries. One is Jahmyr Gibbs, first-round pick, backup running back. Also, Amon-Ra St. Brown, their talented number one receiver who plays inside-outside. Now, they do get back Jameson Williams, former early round pick from last year who had to sit out with an injury and then sat out this year because of a gambling penalty. Josh Reynolds, wide receiver, Detroit Lions, is a great pickup or a great starter if you're looking for a replacement. He has a very similar skill set to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they're going to have to rely on him heavily to pass the ball. You also have Sam Laporta in that game, first-round pick at tight end. I think he's going to have a very good game as well if you want to go the tight end route. But if you're looking for a replacement, I would go with Josh Reynolds as a great guy to put in your lineup. Going to another game, and this one's kind of iffy, but I'm going to bring it up. Matt Breida, running back, New York Giants. Now, the Giants looked terrible last week. They're probably going to look worse this week. Looking at last week's game, they're not going to put Daniel Jones in the situation he was in last week. What that tells me is if they move the ball, they're going to rely heavily on check downs to their running backs. So I don't expect Matt Breida to have a lot of success running the ball, but I do expect him to have 5 or 6 catches, 20, 30 yards receiving, 20, 30 yards rushing. That gets you a good 12 points for this week's matchup to cover yourself in a bye week. So if you're looking for a last week replacement, look at Matt Breida as a guy to watch. And quick update before we get out of here. I see that the Buffalo Bills are down double digits to the Jacksonville Jaguars overseas in London. Haven't looked at the stats really yet. I think Josh Allen has 2 touchdowns, but overall, that offense has definitely been sputtering. I'll give you one more fantasy favorite outside of the Cowboys game. Talking about wide receivers for you guys who need a bye week replacement in a PPR league. Look at Hollywood Brown, Arizona Cardinals going against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals secondary has not been good this year. And Hollywood Brown has been a target monster for the Arizona Cardinals. I look for Cincinnati to try to make this a get-right game, try to put up a lot of points to show that they can still be their team. So I look to see them pass the ball a lot. And because of that, I think Arizona's going to have to pass the ball as well. And there's no better target to choose than Hollywood Brown. One more out of that game. I wouldn't start him, but if you're absolutely desperate with injuries and bye weeks and you got to go to the waiver wire and pick up a guy last minute, look at Tyler Boyd. T. Higgins is going to be out. Jamar Chase is going to be that guy, but Joe Burrow can't throw every ball to Jamar Chase. So look for Tyler Boyd as another kind of bye week replacement guy you can throw in to give you some points. Now, I see my guy Terry Wood, Niners fan, joining us at the last minute, giving us a final score: Cowboys 17, San Francisco 21. I see you're kind of on along the same lines with us, thinking the Niners are going to take advantage of red zone opportunities, and we aren't. I I can see that also. That's pretty close to my score. I have the Cowboys actually winning by a few more points, but I definitely agree with the logic. Terry coming in with his fantasy favorites. Houston defense with 27 points going against the Atlanta Falcons offense. I like that one. You got your old defensive coordinator, now the coach at Houston. Arizona's quarterback is terrible. This is going to be his last straw. He has to make something happen or he's probably getting benched. So I can definitely see him pressing and forcing some turnovers he wouldn't normally force. Houston's a very underrated team offensively and defensively. Their passing game is going to put the pressure on Atlanta and make them have to pass the ball early, which they don't want to do. So I can definitely see Houston defense. Then you got Jamar Chase, 33 points, like I just talked about. T. Higgins is out. Burrow has to show that he's still that guy. And Jamar Chase will probably get about 9 or 10 receptions this game. And then Terry going inside the Cowboys game, Tony Pollard, 21 points. That one's going to be interesting to see if Pollard can get that many points. I'm interested, Terry. Put in the comments, how do you think Pollard gets 21 points? You think he's scoring multiple touchdowns? Or you think he's going to gas the defense? Or you think he's going to be a participant in the passing game? I'm curious about those 21 points. All right, Shane Odom giving us his last-minute bold prediction, saying Sam Williams has a strip sack. Definitely a bold prediction because Sam Williams has had a problem getting home all year, or for his entire career, actually. And like I talked about earlier in the show, the right side of that Niners offense is weak. So there are going to be some opportunities for any of our edges. All right, Terry Rudd saying Pollard scores a touchdown and gets a ton of check down passes. I love you guys, linebackers, and Hufanga is everywhere. I'm gonna be interested to see if he's actually getting check downs because you guys cover running backs very well with your two linebackers. But like I talked about earlier in the show, I think you guys are gonna play a bracket defense on CeeDee Lamb on the inside because your corners have been struggling. So that's probably gonna keep Fred Warner more in zone than he would like. So I could see some check downs in that scenario if they're running Pollard out on routes on the same side as a Fred Warner, who's going to be helping your nickelback with CeeDee Lamb. All right, so my fantasy favorites inside the Cowboys game. Like I talked about before, I think Brandon Cooks scores a touchdown. I think Brandon Cooks has some good mismatches in this week's game. I almost want to say Jake Ferguson just because Dak seems to target him so much. But I have so much respect for Hufanga, the Niners safety. I'm going to stay away from that one. So I'm going to say Brandon Cooks. Of course, Christian McCaffrey. He's going to have a game. And also, if I'm going for 12 points or more from a skill position, I'm probably going to go McCaffrey and Ayuk along with Brandon Cooks for the Cowboys. I can see Tony Pollard getting borderline 12, but I'm not on the same lines as Terry with Pollard and checkdowns. But I definitely understand the logic. I think Ward is good enough to cover Gallup. I think CeeDee Lamb is going to get a whole lot of attention. And I think just because of the pass rush on the inside from Javon Hargraves, Dak is going to have to make some quick decisions. And as Cowboys fans, we all know if Dak gets pressured on the inside, he always scrambles back and to the right. And if he does that, that's going to also pretty much neutralize CeeDee Lamb from getting any catches because CeeDee Lamb is normally a left side slot guy. And unless he's running like a drag route, if Dak's fading to the right, Lamb is not going to have a lot of opportunity. So I'm watching that outside guy on that right side, who I'm thinking is probably going to be Brandon Cooks. I'm watching Brandon Ayuk, who I think is going to get covered a lot by Stephon Gilmore. And then I'm watching Christian McCaffrey just because he's scored 13 straight touchdowns. And he's one of the best, if not the best, running backs in the NFL right now. Shane Odom saying the Cowboys will show the Niners are not that great. The Cowboys are going to bully the bully. I would love to see that, Shane Odom. I just don't see it happening. The Niners do have a lot of opportunities we can take advantage of, but I just can't see us bullying them. What I see is a very even, very competitive matchup where these teams are going to go battle to battle, toe to toe, either offensively, defensively. So that's pretty much all we got for this week's show. We're at 11:53. You guys have plenty of time to kick back, go find your favorite 12 o'clock game, and get your favorite beverage of choice to get ready for a full slate of NFL football today. But before we go, be sure to follow us on Facebook at Bluff City Cowboys, on YouTube at Bluff City Cowboys. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so that you'll be up to date on any upcoming news, notes, and episodes from the Cowboy Zone. Also, be sure to join us this Wednesday, 8:30 Central Standard Time, for this week's episode of the Cowboy Zone, where hopefully we'll be enjoying a Victory Wednesday, and we'll talk about our next week's matchup against the LA Chargers, where we get to face our old offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. So, thank you guys for watching. Definitely appreciate all your support. Thank you to everybody who left comments and questions for this pregame show. Hope to see you guys this Wednesday, 8:30 Central Standard Time, for our next episode of the Cowboy Zone. Enjoy your full slate of NFL football today. And as always, let's go Cowboys. I'll see you guys on
Thank you for watching the Cowboy Zone.